We're back to double headers in the Cricket World Cup, and the second game of the evening takes place in Manchester, and it promises to be quite an exciting one. On the one hand, you have high-flying New Zealand yet to drop a single point in the World Cup, and by that I mean yet to drop a single point in the game they've played. And on the other hand, you've got West Indies, who started in such convincing fashion, but then it's been a different story altogether. And to talk about these two teams, we're joined by Daren Ganga and Dan Vettori. Gentlemen, thank you so much for talking to us. Daren, we'll start with all things West Indies. It started so beautifully for them, but then, God knows, I just can't seem to figure out what happened. You suppose they need to listen to that Bob Marley song, get up, stand up, get up, stand up, stand up and give a fight?
Maybe a little bit of that, Arjun, but definitely they're in desperate need of a win in this encounter if they are to keep their hopes alive of qualifying in the top four. This is a very good New Zealand team, as you could see. A well-oiled machine, a team that is crossing the line more often than not, and it wouldn't be an easy challenge for them. A lot of issues I think the West Indies will need to settle before this game against New Zealand. It will be their final 11. They've had issues with injuries, more so Andre Russell, and whether he will be fit enough. But in terms of that team for New Zealand, I think there will be a call that has to be made between Andre Russell and probably Darren Bravo in terms of one of the two playing as a batsman in the top six in my estimation. I also think that Kemar Roach, because of his experience, he could bring some bowling acumen to this West Indian side, maybe replacing Shannon Gabriel. Wanting to note, Kemar Roach hasn't played a one-day international game against New Zealand just yet, but his test record against New Zealand is quite good. 33 wickets at an average of 22 with 1 5-wicket haul. I think he will be a contender for that 11, but they need good discipline in all departments. The last game against Bangladesh, they conceded about 24 wide, so that's an area they will want to improve on in my estimation.
Darren, of course, the big positive from that game versus Bangladesh was Shai Hope and Evan Lewis and the innings they put together. I'll show you a couple of numbers now as far as West Indies' batting has been in this World Cup. And it just completely shows that there's been no consistency. You've got 50-plus scores from Shai Hope, you've got Nicholas Pooran, Hitmyer, Chris Gale, Jason Holder and Evan Lewis, but all getting 50-plus scores just once. So clearly the consistency is lacking. And someone like a Shai Hope and Evan Lewis, you would hope that they build up from that last game and carry it forward now versus New Zealand.
Well, you would expect that it's a World Cup and you will have players stepping up and trying to give their best all the time. And you would see that in the attitude and how cricket is played on the field for the West Indies. That has not happened. It's been the same sort of grain that you've seen from this West Indian side for the last 2 years. That's why they're dwindling at the bottom of the rankings in terms of teams in ODI cricket. So that consistency has plagued this West Indian side. That's the biggest challenge. It's not about ability. This team has a lot of potential. If it plays well on the day, we see what can happen, as you saw in that game against Pakistan. To me, that's the real challenge for Jason Holder. He's got to spice his leadership up in all departments, try to motivate these guys. Chris Gale, Andre Russell is crucial. They must contribute towards adding value to this team, and the young brigade as well must be more consistent. You talk about Shai Hope, Hetmyer, Evan Lewis. If they all click together, this is a very difficult West Indian team to beat. But that challenge again is, can they do it? They've not been able to do it often.
Darren, a word on West Indies' bowling now. We'll show you a couple of numbers again because we're filled up with numbers here on ESPNcricinfo. And the first three games, of course, there are different numbers. And first three games, they've done pretty well. West Indies Pacers, 22 wickets in 22 wickets they've got, of course, economy of 5.34. But then last two matches, which includes that Bangladesh game, just the 4 wickets to show for, and the economy has also gone up to 7.22. You suppose there is a bowler in the opposition by the name of Lockie Ferguson, and you can probably take notes from the way that guy goes about. He's got sheer pace, but he mixes it up so well, and thus batsmen are not finding it easy to read him.
I think it's adaptability. You speak about Lockie Ferguson. I think he's been able to change his game. He's been able to assess conditions while the game is unfolding. You look at his approach, he's got the pace, he can bowl short as well. But what he's done is he's been a little bit smarter than the opposition. He's trusted those lengths, which are the good lengths, and he has used that short delivery to good effect, and that has produced a lot of wickets for him. So I think the same sort of thing needs to be adopted by the West Indians. Yes, there was a certain amount of newness in their sort of attack and short bowling attack, but this is modern day cricket. Most teams will plan and come to address that sort of approach by the opposition. So this team needs to be smarter. They need to exploit the conditions. Yeah, early on the conditions in the first couple matches were a little bit spicy, but now they're playing in very good batting conditions. So it requires more consistency, more discipline, and it requires for you to be smart and adapt as the game unfolds.
Okay, let's now talk all things New Zealand with Dan Vettori. Dan, I'll take that Lockie Ferguson question to you as well. Just the fact that here's a guy who bowls 148, 149, 150 and can get wickets in pretty much all three phases of the game. Would you say he is well on his way to become one of the best bowlers in world cricket, along the likes of Bumrah and so on?
Yeah, look, I think what he's been able to do in the last sort of year to 18 months is be that attacking weapon for Kane Williamson. I think what his role is to say, here's the ball to get me a wicket, and I think, as you rightly said, Kane will ask him to do that in any situation. And I think he bowls similarly in any stage of the innings where he uses his pace, he uses the short ball. He will mix it up occasionally with the slow ball, but more often than not, he's looking to attack the stumps. He's looking to bring that into play by using the short ball as often as possible, and he's fast. I mean, that's the simple matter. As you saw him against South Africa, against players like David Miller, hurrying them up, and those guys are used to fast bowling. So for him to come in there and be destructive against a South African team shows how quick he is. So I think he's going to be used in that manner throughout the tournament. He's a guy that Kane can rely on to come in and go take on an opposition and look to take wickets at any stage of the game.
Dan, who's got a better moustache, you or Lockie Ferguson?
His is more ginger than mine, I think.
Dan, just a word on your playing 11 now, and I'm told you're bringing in Henry Nicholls into your 11 now.
I've been trying to make changes the whole tournament, and so far they haven't helped me out at all. We've kept the same team in every game. I think we talked about at the start of the tournament, Southey and Nicholls being potentially their go-to guys prior to their injuries, and we saw Munro and Matt Henry come in, and Matt Henry's done a fantastic job. Munro's done an okay job. I think now might be the time that they look to get Nicholls in. There's still 4 or 5 games left in those group stages. New Zealand all but qualified for those semi-finals, so they'll want the likes of a Nicholls to come in. He was one of their first choice selections in the home summer, and over the course of this test and one day cricket in the last year, he's been exceptional for New Zealand. So that's my guess. I've got it wrong every time so far, but if there's any change, I foresee sort of Nicholls coming in.
Dan, just a word on the composition of the playing 11. You've got 2 all-rounders there. Does that sometimes hamper balance for you?
Well, it hasn't so far. I think you can see that Kane has gone to them in different stages as a bowler. Neesham against Afghanistan took 5 wickets. De Graan home against South Africa bowled his full allotment of 10 overs and 1 for 33. Was able to change his pace and utilise the surface. So I think Kane will mix and match between what's right and against the West Indies team and what's right on an Old Trafford surface. So I think those all-rounders allow him to make those decisions. He's always going to rely on Trent Boult, Ferguson, Matt Henry and Satner, and I think he'll mix and match between Neesham and De Graan home depending on how they go and who's more suitable in these conditions.
Guys, final word on the show. I'll start with you, Daren. West Indies, 4 games remaining, pretty much need to win all 4 of them. How do you see this one playing out?
Well, it's going to be tough. I think New Zealand might just get the edge over this West Indian side. But again, it's got that unpredictability factor, very volatile in terms of what they've been able to produce. If they play well, they can beat this New Zealand side. A lot of West Indians are hoping that they play well and give themselves a chance.
Dan, final word with you. Does the New Zealand juggernaut continue?
I think it does, but I mean, we only have to look back to the warm-up match against West Indies in Bristol, where West Indies dominated. I think they scored over 400 and won that game easily, albeit a warm-up game. I think West Indies will take confidence from that, and I think West Indies side with the number of match winners they have are so formidable. So whilst New Zealand are playing some really good cricket and they'll be satisfied with the win against South Africa, I think they really respect the West Indies team. They really respect the individuals. Gale, even Lewis at the top of the order have been so destructive all the way through down to Jason Holder, who I think is a guy I know they really respect and think is a fantastic player. So I think New Zealand go into it favourites, but there's no reason why West Indies can't turn up on their best day and win.
Dan Vettori, Daren Ganga, guys, thank you so much for joining us on ESPNcricinfo Match Day as we were building up to the second game of the day, New Zealand taking on West Indies.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and leave your comments in the comment section below. Click on the bell icon for notifications.